Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So today is a later upload, but I decided I had to get this video in. I want to talk about the recent earnings of the latest UFC card and kind of honestly why UFC fighters are not paid enough. I know this is a very big topic. I know people like Jake Paul have brought this up. Honestly, fighters who are in the UFC have brought this up. I feel like this becomes a pretty heated topic, but I want to share my opinion about it, and mine alone. So, obviously, we know the UFC recently just signed a contract with TKO Holdings, which means essentially they're going to be a bigger company, have more reach, that whole kind of thing. If we look at the payouts for the latest UFC card, it's kind of mind-boggling, if I'm not going to lie to you. The amount of money that some of these fighters made from putting on such a good show is insane. First one I want to talk about is the Sean Strickland and Israel Adesanya fight. Sean Strickland made less than $1 million for that fight. I just want that to kind of sink in for a second. He not only dominated Israel Adesanya, right? The kind of like almost the face of the UFC, not only dominated him, but literally made the fight into what it was in the press conferences, the build up to this fight, and he made less than $1 million. And what you have to understand is not only does he have to pay his entire team, he has to pay his coaches, he has to pay bills for all the training, all the food. That is not a lot of money for someone who headlined in a major event in Australia. It's insane. And I think, to be honest, UFC fighters are not getting paid enough. Even Israel Adesanya, right, one of the biggest names of the sport, probably brings in millions of dollars for the UFC, made less than like $4 million from this fight, which again is nothing. If you look at what NBA players are making, boxing, right, Canelo, guy racks in over like 30 million a fight. It's insane how UFC fighters do not make enough money. And the counter argument is always that, there's a business, we have all these fighters that we need to pay. Well, honestly, where is all of this money, right, that you could be paying UFC fighters? I would really love to see UFC's numbers and how much money they have in the budget to actually pay these people. I think there was even a guy on the UFC card who literally, if he didn't make his fighter bonus, he wouldn't have made more than like 60 grand, which is insane, right? Obviously 60 grand is like a yearly salary for a lot of us, right? But when you come to a UFC fighter and think about the cost of everything that they have to pay and just like putting their body, their life on the line for literally less than $60,000, I think that's insane. Jake Paul is obviously a big advocate for fighters, as he says. Whether that is true or not, I think he does have a point that the UFC is not paying their fighters enough. Now, in my opinion, I think there are certain fighters that obviously, right, shouldn't make as much as others, right? If you were to pay, for example, let's say Chito Vera the same amount that you were to pay Sean O'Malley, would that be fair? Honestly, I don't think so. Right? They're bigger names, they're bigger attractions, bigger stars in the sport that obviously are more deserving. But the amount, even for someone like Chito Vera, is nothing. It's honestly nothing. And it's kind of embarrassing when UFC reveals how much money these fighters make. Like, I wonder if Dana White ever just has those thoughts of like, maybe I'm not really paying my fighters enough money, right? It's insane the salaries that like people in other sports make. And then I love when there's kind of the whole conversation about women in other sports, right, and how they don't make enough money. In my opinion, if you put your life on the line, like boxing, UFC, I think that is way more worthy of getting paid more money as opposed to playing in the NBA. Now, obviously, there's a bigger reach, right? NBA probably has more of a global audience, right? It makes sense. Soccer, you have Messi, who is pretty much one of the, if not the highest paid athlete in the entire world. But there's so much more money that these people are getting paid. And the point that I want to get to is we're starting to see UFC fighters go into different avenues to make sources of income, right? We had Paige Vanzant, who literally left the UFC, then went to bare knuckle boxing, to now having OnlyFans, where she's making more money than people who headline UFC events. I think that's insane. Obviously, obviously OnlyFans, that's a different topic, but it's just showing you how some of these UFC fighters are relying on other things to make their source of income. And if it wasn't for outside brands, right, that are reaching out to these fighters, I really don't think a lot of them would be able to survive based on the type of money that they're making. Do I think Dana White is going to make a change about it? Honestly, I don't know. I think if Dana White eventually, I don't know how long this guy's going to be with the company, but I'd be really interested to see how the future of the UFC is going to change and whether or not people are going to make more money. I mean, we've seen Nate Diaz, who's gone to boxing, made over like $10 million, right? Conor McGregor goes into boxing, right? You have someone like Dylan Dennis, who's probably going to make more money than Sean Strickland for winning the belt, right? It's just there is so much more money out there, and sometimes it's mind-boggling that sometimes even UFC fighters are staying in the UFC with the amount of salaries that they're making. I love when Dana White says, if you want to leave, you can go, right? We're not going to say no to you. He has a good point, but to be honest, there are people that might just leave and not come back and make more money than, they've ever had. UFC is a great company, and I'm not bashing them in any kind of way, but what I'm just trying to say is I don't personally think the UFC is paying fighters enough money, and I do think this is a conversation that needs to be serious, and I think the fighters need to stand up and honestly try to figure out a better way to either increase bonuses, to either have more money in terms of pay-per-view buys for anyone who's on the card. Let me know your comments down below. What are your thoughts on UFC fighter pay? And obviously some fighters going to places like OnlyFans. So thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out. Bye.